Empower Radio presents Simple Steps, Real Change with Cheryl Maloney and Kenny Brixey. You'll find inspiration, support, and simple steps to help you on the path to a better life. Simple steps lead to real change. Here are your hosts, Cheryl Maloney and Kenny Brixey.
When was the last time you said or thought something good about yourself? Do you feel that there are others that are out there that are better than you are, or at least better at hiding whatever doesn't work for them? Hi, it's Cheryl Maloney. Kenny and I are here tonight with our special guest, Melissa Risdon, to talk about turning that inner critic into your raving fan. But before we get going with the holidays upon us, our Facebook friends are telling us that all of these family gatherings are just causing them a little bit of stress. We go for months and never see some of our family, and then you put us all in a room and, the sparks tend to fly, and there's more stress than what we would hope for over the holidays. Hey, Kenny, how are you tonight?
I'm good, Cheryl. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. I know that you had a big family gathering. Did you have any of those issues come up with yours?
Not this time. We have had situations that we did,
that
things. Oh yeah, we do. But I'm very fortunate. The family that was together this time we've always gotten along, and it's a true blessing. Now there's other people that we can bring into this mix that kind of mess that up a little bit. How about you? This was a holiday for us that was literally just my mom, Jack, and I, and the three of us do pretty good together. But when you have those holidays where the family seems to be kind of at odds, you put everybody in a small room or a small place and it gets stressful. What do you find works best for you to kind of help diffuse that kind of stress? For me personally, it is to step away. When I feel that edge getting a little sharper and getting a little closer, is to step away. Just take a few breaths and just realize that, this person is not part of my life all the time. And there's no need to let what could blow up be a problem for me. It's like, I don't need to even go there. And sometimes it's walking away totally. Sometimes it's just stepping away, taking a few breaths, then coming back. But it's like, what's important now? What's important 5 minutes from now? How important is this going to be 5 hours from now or 5 days? How important is this potential problem area? And that will determine how I'm going to react or how I'm going to take control and head it off.
Well, it's such a great thought to say, you know what, I'm going to take control of this. I'm not going to just let it explode. And sometimes you're right. That's just us walking away and say, you know what, it's time for some fresh air. Let me just go do that. And the other thing that I find helps, because I love this idea, is when you're having a particular person that you're having a little bit of stress for, ask them to join you on that walk. Because maybe just getting out of the stress of the family and having an opportunity to talk one-on-one and remembering all of the wonderful things about this person that you like, okay, even if there's a stretch sometimes, to just approach them with a loving heart, to say, all right, none of us need this stress. Let's go out and see if we can just talk through this or get to know each other a little bit better. Because the distance, whether it's physical distance or just space and time between visits, there's a lot of that you can fill in by getting to know each other again better without that stress.
Yeah, so right. And one of the things that I see most in a portion of my family, there are several people that choose to just bury their heads in the sand and hope that this problem and this issue just goes away, and all that causes is more pressure, more what ifs, more I wonder what's going on with them, more speculation, which just raises the level even further. So, Cheryl's idea is wonderful. Taking a walk with that person or alone, either way, will diffuse the situation a little bit. Well, at least walking alone will diffuse it. If you walk with them, it could. It depends on what your intention is. And
my only suggestion, if you're going to choose to go that route, is just ask the person, can we take a walk and just kind of reconnect without going here? Without going to where this possible issue is going to rise up. Just take a walk first. Just take a breath together. And if that person is okay with that, then go. And then after you kind of get comfortable again, after you get to know each other again, after you can release the pressure of that situation, then you can maybe approach it again and have a chat instead of an argument.
Well, and how many times do we hear as we're looking at posts and listening to friends to say, I am in this family meeting and everybody else is doing better than me, so I must be a loser. And I hear that so many times, and and I think this is probably why our guest tonight is going to be so much help to talk about that inner talk. But before we get going, for those of you that are out there, if you would like to call in and ask a question of Melissa Risdon or Kenny and I, the phone number call is 248-809-3475. Again, 248-809-3475, or I'm manning the email in case you don't want to talk on the telephone, and you can email us at simplesteps@me.com. So, Kenny, why don't you introduce Melissa?
All right. Melissa is just extremely passionate about assisting people in turning their inner critic into their own raving fan. That is so cool. I wish I'd have met her about 20 years ago. Yeah. She works with heart-centered entrepreneurs. She helps them to build their confidence, which in turn allows them to create a business and a lifestyle that they absolutely love. Melissa assists her clients in building an emotional foundation to support them along their journeys. She spent 17 years in corporate America before leaving to pursue her own passion, and she has truly become her own biggest raving fan. It is so cool. I can't wait for you guys to meet her. She is the host of Raving Fan Radio and author of the ebook, Turn Your Inner Critic into Your Raving Fan. She also has an e-zine called Your Own Biggest Fan. Melissa is a master neurostrategist. She's a master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming and a master hypnotherapist. I tell you, man, she's just cool all the way around. She has more than 200 hours of leadership training with the Robbins Research Institute and so much more. Melissa has walked on fire. She's eaten fire. She has overcome her fear of heights using the same principles that she teaches every day to her clients. And now I can say that she's one of our friends. We are so happy to welcome her to the show. How are you doing tonight, Melissa?
Oh, Kenny, I'm doing very well. Thank you for that warm welcome.
Oh, sure.
You have truly done so much in your life, and this is the first time that our audience has had a chance to meet you. So could you just tell them a little bit about how you came to this place in your life? And we were talking before about what you had been through in your personal life. Just give people a little bit about Melissa Risdon.
Yeah, I would love to. The short and quick background is I grew up being extraordinarily critical to myself, and along my entire life was always asking myself, consciously and unconsciously, what's wrong with me? And it didn't really come to fruition is kind of the word that comes to mind. It didn't really come out in the open until I went through a divorce in my early 30s. I was, going to grow up, fall in love, get married, get a house, get a dog, have a baby. It was that, typical American dream. Mm-hmm. And when my divorce happened, my whole life, in a sense, just really fell apart. And I realized that I did not have a relationship with myself whatsoever. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know who I was. I didn't, it was like the slate was clean on my entire life. I could do whatever it was I wanted, and that scared me to death. And it really started to push me in a direction of this self-help world. And I would really say that it's a real savior for me because it helped me understand more of what is going on inside that internal criticism.
It's amazing to listen to you because I hear this from so many, and I know I said it before, whatever our lives have been, when something major like this changes, a divorce, in my case, it was,
being out of a job after 25 years, we had to find ourselves. Our lives and our goals had been about those things or those titles. Did you find yourself after your divorce having that same, who am I?
Very, very much, who am I? I thought going through the divorce process was going to be the darkest hours. And after my ex-husband and I, we're like, we care about each other, we love each other, but we want different things. I really felt that the hard part was over. And I found that that's really when the hard part began, because I had no identification of who I was, what I wanted, what were my dreams and my ambitions, if all of a sudden now at, my young 30s, I was a divorcee. Not something you grow up imagining.
Yeah, you put your ideals in that dream, that cleaver mentality, and
yes.
It's really tough when it doesn't work out.
Yeah,
June and Ward Cleaver, that's really it, because you said exactly that. You get married, you have a family. I like the dog part. That one added such a great dimension too. We all look at that and go, oh yeah, that's an idea. And the ideals have changed. And I'm sure as you're sitting there now with everything that you have gone through and what you're doing with your life now, your ideal life for you is very different than it was right after your divorce.
Very, very, very much so. And I would say that the major differences now is I have an understanding of who I am, what I need, what I want. It's like I understand and appreciate how my emotions work now. They don't run my life anymore. I comprehend why they exist and what's happening, what it is I want for my business, for my relationship with my family, speaking of holidays. I understand what it is I want now, and, I'm at a point that I take full responsibility for all my relationships in my life, the one I have with myself, the one I have with friends, the one I have with family. And just how you're mentioning it, those things come up on holidays. I now look at it as opposed to a victim. I look at, what's my part in this family, stress or issue, or do I need to go take a walk and remove myself, like you were saying, Kenny, that sometimes it's just good to get out.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, Melissa, you talked about how you searched within yourself, basically, after the divorce. Most people, when they go through the divorce, immediately start looking for Mr. or Mrs. Right. Most people who go through losing a job start looking for the next great job. Most people most people look outside. That's the safe place to look, is outside. What caused you to look inside, and what couple of steps could you offer our audience who may be going through the same thing?
Yeah, and I fell into that also. In hindsight, I was fortunate enough to have a very short romantic relationship where it was, within 2 months, I already realized the same exact problems I was having with my ex-husband were starting to show up in this relationship. So I started to realize, and I would say that to anyone who's listening, if the same issues are showing up again and again, it's time to take a step back and look at your part of it and look within, as opposed to looking for somebody else to fix it.
Yeah.
Well, it's so true in our lives that anytime we look for someone outside of ourselves to fix us, and I did this for years. I always thought that somebody better than I did, so I needed to rely on them to fix whatever my problems were or to make life better. And it wasn't until I got to the point where I took responsibility for, walking away from the things that I should have been standing there and holding up for myself, that I have a role in this. I have the only role in this. We may bring others into it, but it's our lives. It's not someone else's. And even with the best intent, and Kenny and I talk about this all the time, even if someone has the best intent to help you, they're not you. They have their own lives to take care of. And it sounds like you just got to that place pretty quickly in the scheme of things if it only took another relationship after the divorce. That's pretty darn good.
I look at it, when you hit rock bottom, there's no place else to go than up. And so I started, asking for help. I did therapy for a while. I was lucky enough to be introduced to Tony Robbins and some of his trainings and organizations. And, throughout all of it, there was this common thread of, life's about having a relationship with yourself. And another huge point, which I remember when I heard it, it actually really made me mad. I mean, it really pissed me off as someone said to me that, you're exactly in your life where you're at because of all the choices you've made.
That has made me mad before, too.
and it was said with love, so I could receive it. But it was like, there was no way that I chose this. And then I had to take a step back. And it was like, I think it was the next 3 weeks, my head was spinning around this idea. And slowly starting to take accountability and ownership that I had made all the choices, good or bad, I had made them. And then the empowerment came that it was like, well, then I'm the one that can start making different choices to start steering my life in a direction I want. And that was extremely empowering for me.
And I'm sure as you're talking to clients that it takes a little while sometimes for them to get to the same point that you got to in your life. I know it did for me too. I know it did for Kenny. We've talked about this quite a bit. It's like there's something life-changing that all of a sudden you go, oh, wait, I am responsible for this. I may not have been the sole person responsible, but I'm responsible for my own choices, my own decisions, and they've contributed to that, and I have a choice on how I can go forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
and that's the beautiful point of it.
Yeah. One thing I want everybody that's listening to hear is you do not have to go through a major issue in your life to get this message.
We hope you don't go through a major issue to get this message. That's why we're here.
So many of the people who are out here teaching this have had some horrible things happen that cause them to open their eyes. Learn from our mistakes or our issues or our problems or whatever it was that jumped up and slapped us in the face. Learn from us. One of the easiest ways to know whether you're looking inside or out is if you are looking to that next relationship to make you happy, if you're looking for that next car to make you happy, if you're looking for that next drink to make you okay, you're heading towards addiction and away from self-love.
Mm-hmm.
Turn it around. Come back to self. And that's not a selfish thing. It's come back to self. That's where all of your answers are. That's where your essence is. That's where your connection with others happens.
Mm-hmm.
So. Well, Melissa, as you're working with clients, because I know you've got quite a thriving coaching practice, and you're working with clients, do you run into those that have a hard time accepting their role in whatever's going on in their life?
I find the people that are most attracted to me are the ones that are at a point of looking for some answers. So even though it might be something difficult to really wrap their head around, they're at a point that they're avoiding the rock bottom. They're starting to make choices and decisions. Some people do, but it's fascinating to me because there's a huge aha moment with that it's like, even though I'm talking on the phone with people, you can see their eyes get big and their mouths kind of drop, and some people get a little bit angry or want to fight it, and some people just really surrender to it and realize, all right, I have, so now what?
What do you think causes people to fight that? Because I've seen it too.
Great question. I think what causes people to fight it is it's scary in a sense. It's scary in a sense to take full ownership that you've created your reality, that you've created, the toxic relationships, that you're a part of it. It's much easier to blame it on somebody else because it's out there. It's scary, I think, to really own it and really, move through it. And I think that as a culture, especially in America, we're not really. I guess it goes across international boundaries of people I've met, that there is something scary about looking within, which seems crazy because what's the famous quote? No matter where I go, there I am.
Yeah. Yep. You can't hardly hide from yourself.
Wow.
Yeah. It is so true as you're talking about that. And we go through these stages where we do create our own reality. And there are circumstances that are out there that people are, they didn't wish for Hurricane Sandy to hit the East Coast. There are some very major events in life that no one has any control over, but they do have control over how they go forward. And when you're working with clients that are dealing with situations that are outside of their control, how do you help them come to terms with getting control going forward?
Right. Well, I really look at it that, even though someone's life, is turned around and moving forward, and even people that, look at their life of, I'm fulfilled and I'm happy and I have the body, the business, the lifestyle I love, the relationship, it's that reality still exists. Circumstances still happen. The car still breaks. Car accidents happen. The storms happen. And I really try to help people look at, what's their role in it. I have a good friend, Sandy happened and they were out of electricity for 2 weeks and she's got 2 young kids. And I know that, she really looked at, let's bond with the family in the one room where we have the heater and, play some games and really enjoy it, as opposed to the woe is me. Because if you go into victim mode, no matter what's happening in your circumstances, then you have less control. And I think when people feel out of control, it's scary. So I've even looked at it, if your car breaks down, just take ownership that you forgot to get something looked at, or you get in a car accident. I was the one who chose to drive down the street. Maybe there's a bigger reason. I'm a huge believer that things happen when they're supposed to, and that everything happens for a reason. And I don't expect everyone to believe that, but I try to help people with that, because it really helps me let go of some things and not get caught up in the chaos of life. It sometimes seems.
Yeah, I totally agree. Everything does happen for a reason, and we don't always see what that reason is. But looking back over my life since I've learned that, I may not have liked what happened, but there was always a reason for it to happen. And it was a very powerful and empowering lesson to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Kenny, we go back and look at the lessons, because truly it is the lesson that gives us the power to move forward, as opposed to, as Melissa, as you're saying, is staying in victim role. Because when you're in victim role, you feel helpless, and you also get frustrated and angry. And no matter what happens at that point, even if it's good, you don't necessarily appreciate it because you're still sitting in a negative place. So, well, we've got a little bit of time left before we go to our break. But one thing I'd like to ask you is, as you're dealing with someone who truly has made that decision to come out a victim and take control of where they are right now, what is their biggest concern, or what do they try and do first?
Great question, and I think the best thing to do is really notice what questions you're asking yourself. If you ask yourself questions like I did growing up, what's wrong with me? You can always find a negative answer. If you're asking yourself, why is this happening to me? It's victim in a sense. It's that something is happening to me that I'm out of control of. If you're asking yourself, what is it that I'm meant to learn in this situation? It's a much more empowering question. So I really look at what questions you're asking yourself, what language you're using, and being conscious of it is really some of that first step of awareness.
Wow.
I love that.
I love that too. That's absolutely powerful. Well, when we come back from the break, what we want to do is dig into turning that inner critic into a raving fan, and how to really stop stop the chatter that's going on behind the scenes. And I know that you're an expert at helping people to do this. So when we come back, we're going to go into that inner critic and make her a raving fan. So we'll be back in just a few.
And now back to Simple Steps, Real Change with Cheryl Maloney and Kenny Brixey on Empower Radio.
Welcome back. We're here tonight with Melissa Risdon, and I'm just having such a great time listening to what she has to say. Before we get back to the questions, though, I'd like to remind everybody that we do have a call-in number tonight. That number is 248-809-3475. You can call in and chat with Andrew a little bit before you get on with us and ask any of us a question. If you'd rather send an email, please feel free to do that as well. The email address is simplesteps@me.com. Melissa, I've heard people and actually spent a lot of money learning how to just beat the snot out of the inner critic. There are some people out there, well-known and very well-respected people, talking about how to get rid of that critic altogether, and then you're talking about turning that critic into your own biggest raving fan. I love that thought. How do you go about that? How do you make that shift?
Melissa?
Can you hear me now?
There she
There
is.
you go.
I apologize. I turned the mic on mute on the break. I'm back.
I've done that. I have done that.
Oh. I heard everything you said, and I started talking. Yeah, I'm a huge believer that it goes back to, no matter where you go, there you are. These voices don't go away. So if you push them down, if you bury them, they come back, and sometimes they come back with vengeance. I really find a key is to really start to listen. What is going on with the voice, with the criticism? Is there a way to take a step back and look at what's being said without judgment? Without going into everything, because I'm sure we could talk for 4 hours on this. There really is positive intent behind it. There really is something that there's a part of you that's protecting you, that's keeping you safe. I mean, I look at, we've all seen the scenario where the young kid is chasing the ball in the street and he's only seeing the ball, not the car that's coming down the street, and the mother does the blood-curdling, stop, and grabs the kid, and what are you doing? How could you do that? And the kid is still like, but my pretty red ball. And I look at that kind of metaphor to really sum it up. You're that voice that's critical of you is yelling at you to stop or do something different or change something. It's just how it's now communicating to you is no longer working.
I love that. I've played with that idea for quite a while and I call it the ego instead of the inner critic, but the ego beginning as a protector and then kind of getting power hungry as life goes on. So this is real in line with that, and I love what you're saying there.
Well, let me ask a question. We run into so many people that, and I hear it time and time again, that they will say something like, I'm so stupid, or I'm just a loser. They'll use that type of language. It's just so general and not into, I'm not capable of doing something. They'll just use these broad generalizations, which are very derogatory to themselves. How do you help someone break that habit?
It sometimes can be difficult and sometimes can be easy. I think it's hitting kind of people's sweet spot as to what is going to get to them. I definitely ask people questions of, if you spoke to your best friend the way that you spoke to yourself, would they still be your friend? and I've not yet had someone say yes to that.
That's true. Wow.
And it's also looking at, how it's we can be so cruel and mean. And I also, it's Marianne Williamson's poem, Our Deepest Fear is our light, not our darkness. Mm-hmm. It's our light that frightens us. I've got the wording wrong, but that poem is so powerful because I think we try to keep ourselves small because we don't want to outshine or overshadow other people, because in our culture that's negative. People who are selfish, and I say that with quotes, that, they make sure that they take care of themselves, can be looked at very negative. Mm-hmm. And I look at it, and I teach my clients this, that you need to be selfish in the sense of take care of yourself, communicate your needs to others. And when you do that with love to yourself and to the ones that you're interacting with, it's a beautiful thing. It's better communication. It's better awareness of yourself and those that you interact with.
And there's quite a big difference between being kind to yourself and being pompous. And I think so many of us were raised to say, when you toot your own horn, you're sounding like you're better than someone else, or you're being arrogant. And there's a very different dynamic in self-kindness and self-awareness than that extreme. But so many times, especially for those of us that are, older, we were brought up to believe that if you talk about yourself, you're a bad person. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're suggesting, which is really you're leading with love with yourself. You're not sitting there touting how great you are to the entire world and you're better than they are. You're acting with confidence and love. And I think that's such a great distinguishment that you make, that it will help a lot of people. I'm sure it has with everything you've been doing. Besides just helping you and all of your clients, I just sit here, Melissa, and go, this is such, and I like the word simple. It is really simple, but sometimes we get so lost in what's going on in daily life that we forget how simple it is. And that's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. I always say that I'm like, it's not the significant things that you do that affect you. It's the insignificant things that you do on a daily basis that most significantly affect your life. And if you're being mean to yourself constantly, internally and externally, it's a bad effect. If you're being very kind and loving to yourself, and the truth is that we don't go around boasting to everyone how critical we are of ourselves. There's no reason you got to boast around to everybody how great you are. It's just, if you feel it, own it, and people see it. You don't have to tell them.
Mm-hmm. It truly is. I've heard that over the course of all those years in corporate America, let your work speak for itself, because if you're good, it will. And that's true when we're talking about ourselves, is if we are confident, we are assured, it's going to show. It's going to come out all by itself without having, as you say, that pompous attitude that really isn't. That's a turnoff, as opposed to what you're teaching people, which is to be authentic and genuine. That's really what you're doing here. Mm-hmm. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. And I always encourage people to, it's like own those things that growing up or in earlier life were painful. I'm an emotional person, and guess what? I'm at a point that I'm like, I love that I'm emotional. I get to feel all the ups and downs of life. I get to smile and laugh hard and cry at, Kleenex commercials, and I get to really enjoy it.
That's great. I love that.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I sit here and listen, as I grew up in the corporate world, is especially for a woman, being emotional, you were seen as not capable. So how do you help folks just come to terms with this is a quality to embrace, and how do you deal with that?
I think the more that you embrace it and you're comfortable with it, it doesn't have a hold over you. Years ago when someone would say to me, you're so emotional, oy vey, it was such a negative thing. And it was just like, that would totally trigger me into this emotional downward. And I remember in the recent past, last couple of months, someone said it to me, and I was just like, yeah, I am. And it's like people don't really know what to do with it because it's like I am. And you're not, it's no longer a hold over me. It's not a trigger. And that's something that I try to help clients with. You know, it's those things that get you that people say about you. A lot of times they're true, which is why it upsets us. Well, guess what? That's part of you. And the more you own it, the more authentic you are, the more comfortable you are in your own skin. And it kind of just fades away. People don't pick up on it as much.
How do you, obviously the key to letting these things become your strength as opposed to a hindrance is awareness. I mean, you have to be aware of it. You have to notice it's going on. How do you help your clients get to that awareness so that so they don't go days and weeks without hearing that voice that's beating them up, or they go thinking that being emotional is just a horrible thing to be.
Right.
How do you teach them about awareness and how to stay in touch with that?
I would say that the top three things I encourage everyone to do, and these are all, three things that anyone who's listening can also do, is number one, I say take an inventory of what's really going on in your life. Take a step back out of judgment and just, write down, whether it's, on a computer typing or by hand, of where you're really at in your life. Where's your health, your finances, what is the truth of what's going on? Because awareness is key. I always say, if you want to get to San Francisco, if you're, in Southern California or if you're in New York, you're going to choose two different paths on how to get to San Francisco. And a lot of times people just concentrate on the dream and the end destination, and they forget to just look down on the ground. Well, where am I? Because I'm going to make different choices depending on where I'm at. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just different choices. So that's number one. Get a real honest look as to where you're at in your life. Number two, another writing exercise called active imagination. And these voices that are in our heads, I say embrace them, listen to what they have to say, give them your attention to just be aware of what's going on. A lot of times they'll just start revealing. First they might get mad at you because you haven't been listening to me for years, and I've been trying to tell you, and I've been trying to help you, and you're just making me so mad. And well, the truth is I really, really, really want you to do well, whatever it may be. Because I think they've been kind of bottled up for so long. So there might be a little bit of an explosion, just like in any relationship when you sit down to have the conversation that you haven't had. There's a lot to say, and then usually you get to the good gems. And the third thing I recommend that everyone does is that we see our reflection of ourselves daily. Brushing your teeth, putting on makeup, in the rear view mirror, walking past, a glass window, wherever it may be. Either notice what you're saying to yourself when you see yourself, or you don't even have to do that. You just have to start saying words such as, I love you, I see you, I'm here for you. Just start talking to yourself like it's the most special person in the world to you. And you'll definitely start to notice a change. One exercise that I love to do with clients is a mirror exercise, where I say, go look in the mirror and look at your eyes in the mirror and say to yourself, I love and accept you exactly as you are. And you say it 10 times, say it out loud 10 times in a row, and see what happens. Because for the most part, we've never said those words to ourselves.
Exactly. And I love making the eye contact with yourself to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's real easy if you look anywhere other than your eyes, it's real easy to start picking on yourself. Make eye contact, because that is the beautiful part of your soul, and all that is. I love that. Don't do it enough, but I love it. So.
I say that now that anyone who's heard this, the next time you see yourself in the mirror, I invite you to do that, because we see ourselves a lot more than we think think we do.
Yeah, that's another one of those awareness things, So.
Melissa, so when you look at yourself in the mirror every morning, what do you say to yourself?
I say I love you. Every time I see myself, I say I love you.
What a kind way to start your day. As I'm sitting here listening, I think it is such a simple thing, but it's such a beautiful thing to do. And I appreciate you sharing that with our audience, because that's something that everyone can do. And we forget to say, I love you to ourselves, because we're so busy saying, I don't know, you're stupid, I hate you, or, you're too fat, or anything else. But if you turn that around and just, as you both say, stare into your own eyes like you would someone that you're in love with, you become in love with you, because you remember that the love is where you're coming from. Oh, that's extremely powerful. You know that, right? Your clients probably just sing your praises when you teach them that.
So far, so good. Someone taught it to me, and it's one of those things that I share it with anyone who will listen. I share that with.
Yeah, that's great. I have to admit that I am very guilty of not doing that, even though I've been teaching personal growth for 17, 18 years, something like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm very guilty of that, and I am so happy that you reminded me of that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We all can use that gentle reminder. And before we get too far down the line here, because I know we're going to run out of time, there's so many questions that I want to ask and we have to ask, is if someone's out there listening right now and they're saying, I want to feel this way, but everything is going wrong in my life and I just don't know how I can love myself, what would you tell them to do first?
Well, I think that the first thing is you're aware that something needs to happen, which is a huge step. You're conscious of it. Be kind to yourself. A lot of times when we start becoming aware, it can be painful because we've not paid attention to it before. And so it feels kind of icky. But just remember that it takes courage to move through stuff, and it's always better on the other side. And life is a journey. This isn't something we're expecting to be done in a day. It took how many years to get this way? So be patient and, at least give yourself a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple of hours to start to move through it and change the relationship that you have with yourself and really start turning it into your raving fan. And I was going to say, and also know that, sometimes the criticism is helpful. I like to, whenever I write something openly and honestly and loving, and then I turn it over to my, the one that's the critical reader that wants to fix everything on the paper, and then that part of me comes in, and guess what? Time means everything. When that criticism of a blog I've written comes in, it's a beautiful thing. I just don't want it there when I'm actually doing my first rough draft.
I like that. Yeah. Mine usually jumps in on the first draft and is like,
right. If I could just say, hold on 1 second, you're going to get your turn.
I love that.
And also, Cheryl, anyone who's interested, I also tell them about my free ebook, that it gives people steps and practical things that they can do.
Well, by all means, tell our audience where they can get your free ebook, Melissa. Yes, please.
Well, the easiest URL to remember is Critic to Fan, which is Critic, CRITICTOFAN.com, and that just forwards right over to my website. So critictofan.com is direct link to the ebook, and literally, if they Google my name, Melissa Risdon, they'll find my website, they'll find my Facebook fan page, and I would love to connect with anybody who wants to learn more.
Wonderful. Well, and we will post all of that information up on our website and on the summary for this that goes on YouTube. So if anybody wants to reach you, they know exactly how to get a hold of you. So, and is that the best way to just contact you through your website? Because I see there's a Contact Melissa form. Is that the best way to get a hold of you, or are there other ways?
That's one of the best ways. Yeah, that's definitely one of the best ways. It's going to be the most efficient way to get a hold of me. And I guess I could give people the spelling of my last name, because that's where sometimes people get held up. It's melissarisdon.com, and my first name is Melissa, and last name is Risdon, Risd as in David, O-N. And they can find me there, melissarisdon.com.
And when we get on melissarisdon.com, there's all sorts of great information here, access to your ebook, and of course we can be following you on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Do you have videos out there?
I do have a few videos. I'm working on getting some more so people can see my face.
Right. Now, Melissa, you also have a radio show. When is that on, and where do people find that?
I do. It's called Raving Fan Radio, and it's on every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific. And the theme is bringing people on and bringing experts on and continuing the conversation of turning your inner critic into a raving fan, and hearing personal stories of people who've gone through their own difficulties to really believe in themselves and in their business. And that's also you can find that either through my website or ravingfanradio.com.
Well, yep, there's a way right here. I'm looking at Raving Fan Radio on your website, and I think that's a wonderful whole premise for a show, because the inner critic isn't a once and done, so it's really great that you offer people that have been there, done that, and helping others on how they got through it. And that's always just such a powerful tool. Well, Melissa, we are just thrilled that you agreed to join us tonight. And thank you for being on the show and for helping us, switch that inner critic over to something that's more, favorable to us.
Loving.
I love it.
Yeah,
loving,
thank you
raving
so much.
fan.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's been such a pleasure connecting with you both, Kenny and Cheryl, and I've just loved it.
Yeah, I'm so glad we met. I can't wait to talk again. So.
Yeah, me too.
Great. Well, Kenny, we have had this topic. How many times do we hear people on a day-to-day basis that truly live by their inner critic? And Melissa's got such a great idea on how to make that transfer by not ignoring the inner critic, but by using the messages, stepping back and learning. I think that awareness piece to me is key. What about you?
Yeah, that was. I love the 3-step deal that she told us about. Know who you are, and know where you are on your journey, I guess is the better way to say that. Know where you are on your journey, then embrace that voice. That's the one thing that I actually paid like $3,000 for a seminar that helped me learn how to beat the crap out of that inner critic. And this is such a new way of looking at it, and it's not the first time I've heard this, but it really resonates this time. So to embrace that voice is really powerful for me. And then see our own reflection daily. That was like a little pop in the face there, because it was something I know and have chosen not to do. So no, this was a wonderful, wonderful reminder for me to hear what Melissa's saying. So the one thing that I want to remind or tell everybody about, though, is listening to the voices doesn't mean you have split personalities. This is all part of the one that you are, and it's all part of what makes you so unique and so special. And when you can actually embrace that critical voice, you can use it like Melissa does and use it as a way to improve your product, your message, your whatever you're doing. I know I just stepped all over you there. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, I know. It's all right. We get so excited when we get a guest on like Melissa, who just has such wonderful, simple ideas that truly, we can make our lives better. We can get to a better place very simply, but we forget. We get so tied up in churning in whatever's going on in life that we forget that something like starting from here, just take an inventory of where you are. And I always love starting from there, because you can't go back. you can only go forward. But if you know where you are, you know which direction you're going to head. Her equation of going to Los Angeles or going to New York. We say this all the time: is if you're sitting in New York City and want to go to Chicago, but you start heading east, it's going to take you a long time to get to Chicago, and it's going to waste a whole heck of a lot of energy that you really need to be spending elsewhere. So I just love that awareness of where you are right now, and Melissa's comments about this is a journey, and we hear that all the time, but it's true. This isn't a once and done to get your life to where you want it to be, and listen to the inner critic and turn the inner critic into a loving voice instead of an unkind voice. We just tend to get so caught up in life that we forget about it, but we don't have to do it. We don't have to do it all, and we don't have to do it all right now. That awareness piece is so powerful. Oh, yeah. You and I have gone through a few of those.
Yeah, I actually have things, and I'm going to add it to we were talking earlier about my phone and the alarms that I have set. The mirror work is going to be set in my phone because I truly do. I get so caught up in what I'm doing that it's not that I don't want to do that. It's just I just don't do it. And then eventually the whole thought goes away. So if you are like me and have a hard time with it, set an alarm in your phone. So when it goes off, you can, it reminds you to go check it out. Go look in the mirror or put a mirror on your desk, so because that's powerful. That's powerful stuff. Just can't get over that.
It's funny, when I was in the corporate world, because we spent so much time on the telephone with clients. I was in the insurance business and doing claims, and one of the things that they always said was put a mirror on your monitor. So, and that's and they actually distributed us mirrors at one point in time. Put a mirror on the monitor, and when you're talking to that person on the phone, be aware if you're smiling or frowning. Because whatever you're doing is coming through to the customer on the phone. Well, that's true for ourselves. If we look in that mirror, be aware if we're smiling or frowning at ourselves, and then take that moment to be aware of it and say, okay, let me look with love instead of with this frown or whatever else we tend to do. But I like the idea of I'm good with setting alarms and calendars, but if you're like so many women, and I know I was this way for the longest time, we avoid mirrors like the plague because we don't want to see what we look like. Well, look into your own eyes.
Yeah. And
you're looking with love, and you're looking into your soul, and that's where your focus is, not on everything around you.
Yeah, when you can look into your own eyes and just stare until you can feel something, you will be seeing your own awesomeness, your own heart, your own soul. It's that work is so incredibly powerful. I hope everyone at least gives it a shot.
And simple.
Yeah, it doesn't cost you anything.
It doesn't.
It doesn't cost.
And we're all for doesn't cost you anything. And all right. Well, this has been a fabulous topic for tonight, and especially with going through the holidays and things get a little stressful, that stop, checking to where you are with yourself, and just keep looking at yourself through eyes of love. Well, Kenny, it's been a wonderful show. On next week's show, we are going to have author Linda Joy. She's the author of A Juicy, Joyful Life and Embracing Your Authentic Self, and she's on a mission to inspire 100,000 women. Let's help her to do that.
I can't wait.
Good night, Kenny. Have a good week.
You too.
Bye, everyone.
Bye now.